it's Mo. It is August 4th, so it is time to do my recently acquired books for July. I'm going to show you all the books that I gathered in July. I thought July was going to be a bigger month for getting books because I have a really big book sale that I love to go to in July, and there was another book sale that was supposed to happen, and we're often going around doing things, so I thought I would pick up more. I have a lot of books here, but not as many as I thought I was going to pick up. So let's start with the books that I got in little free libraries or other places before we move on to the books that I got at book sales. The first book I acquired in July was The Sea by Iris Murdoch. Now, I had no idea this book was so long. It's pretty hefty, coming in at almost 500 pages. I did not know that. I know that Bob the Booker and many other literary booktubers love this book. I think it's about a man who is not very nice, and it's kind of told by the women in his life. So I will be interested to get to this one, but the length definitely means that I will not be getting to it as soon as I thought I would. In a new and I think temporary little free library in Bradley Beach, which actually I have to go back and check on because I haven't been there since the very beginning of July, and it was an interesting little free library. I'd like to see if it was still there. It definitely seemed like a temporary library that was going to be taken down at the end of the summer. It seemed like it was in front of a vacation house, so I'd be interested to check that out. But in that library, I got Last Bus to Woodstock by Colin Dexter. This is one of the Inspector Morse novels, and I've read this one several times on audio before, but when I was getting the audiobooks, I was getting them from a audio subscription, and I was getting them partly because I love the Inspector Morse and Inspector Lewis TV show, but also because this was read by Kevin Whately, who plays Inspector Lewis in those shows. But I didn't realize at the time that they were abridged versions. So I've kind of been keeping my eye out for the actual book versions because I can get the unabridged versions on audio, but I think I would rather try reading one or two physically. Last Bus to Woodstock is the first in the Inspector Morse books, so this is a good one. I've also seen some of the Morse books before but haven't liked the cover, and although this is not a stunning cover by any means, I like this better than the ones that I had seen. And at that same little free library, I got Thousand Cranes by Yasunari Kawabata, which is apparently a Japanese modern classic. It's extremely short, so I'm excited to read that one. The last books that I got from Little Free Libraries in July were from the Cookman Little Free Library, I believe, and that was The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow. Alex E. Harrow has more recently written The Once and Future Witches that people really, really liked, but this is a portal fantasy, and I've had this one on my want to read list basically since I started Booktube just because it sounds kind of interesting. I do think that it's YA, or at least reads like YA, so I don't know if I'm actually going to enjoy it. I do like this cover, and this happens to be a proof. And then I also got Queen by Katie Roberts. Now, I've never read any Katie Roberts. She writes mostly, I think, supernatural / fantasy romance, and this one, I believe, is about vampires, and it was signed, so I picked it up. I started to read it and I got like just a few pages in and I realized that this is actually the third in a series. It is like an extremely short, cute little book. I'm sure I could read them out of order, of course, but the way the story was going, it would definitely make more sense if I read the first two first. So I might keep this one and keep my eye out, especially because it's signed. So if I end up loving Katie Roberts, I have a signed copy, I might give it back to a little free library. We'll see. Another book that I picked up at the Asbury Park Library book sale, which I was really looking at the free section, but I forgot they had a sale section. This book is American Spy by Lauren Wilkinson. I had this on my want to read list, but I honestly don't know much about what it's about, except that it is a fictionalized version of a young woman working in the 70s, I think in Washington, D.C., who becomes a spy. All the rest of these books I got at the Ocean Grove Women's Auxiliary book sale, which happens every year in July. It's a great, huge book sale. Paperbacks are $1 and hardcovers are $2. And then they have a little section of like hip books or like current books that they price slightly higher, some of them like $3 to $5. So these are all books that I got there. Now at those library sales, or book sales, I tend to go a little crazy and just buy everything. So there are a few in here that I'm not 100% sure of. The first book though, I was super excited to get because this is book 2 of Kate May Ghost Stories. In 2020, I read book 1 of Kate May Ghost Stories, which I don't remember where I got. It might have been from my basement box books, or I might have found it at a used bookstore in Kate May, but I really enjoyed that nonfiction, and I think this one would be a super fun one to continue with and read more of. Very local, very indie press / independently released, and just a fun nonfiction about New Jersey. I got A Coney Island of the Mind by Lawrence Ferlinghetti, which is a book of poetry, and it mentions Coney Island, so I was in. It also has like a great like kind of 70s font to the titles of the poems, and it just was a really beautiful old book, so I was interested in that one. A book I'd never heard of was Old Lady Voice by Eliza Victoria, which is translated by Charlotte Whittle, and it is translated, I believe, from the Spanish. Yes, from the Spanish. And I don't remember what this book was about, but I loved the cover, and I was excited that it was translated. The Dreamers by Karen Thompson Walker was a sci-fi, cli-fi type book that has been on my want to read, so I grabbed this when I saw it. I picked up When the Cat's Away by Kiki Friedman. Now, Kiki Friedman is an author that I definitely remember hearing about. He writes like noir style mystery thriller books in the 80s and 90s, and I think he had a little bit of like a moment in the spotlight, but I don't really remember anything else about him. It's a little bit weird, it's a little bit odd, but I thought it would go really well with my reading cozy cat mysteries or other cat mysteries vlog that I want to do, so I picked this one up. On impulse, I picked up In the Night Cafe by Joyce Johnson. I don't know what this is about. I just know that it is kind of a mid-century, Midwestern style story, and I just thought that the name and the premise sounded interesting, whatever that premise was. I picked up Dorothy L. Sayers' Clouds of Witness because I would like to read more Dorothy L. Sayers. I've only read one book by her, and I have another book that is, I believe, short stories. She is a queen of crime along with Agatha Christie. Two books that I am not quite sure about are Two Old Women, An Alaska Tale of Betrayal, Courage, and Survival by Velma Wallace. As far as I can tell, this is based on an Alaskan Inuit myth and written by an Inuit indigenous person, so I'm interested in this. And then another one that is unclear is Mutant Message Down Under, which is about a woman going to Aboriginal Australia and her story there. This is another one that's hard to tell if it's nonfiction or if it's fictional account of a story or a myth that has happened, but it is supposedly written by an Aboriginal person, so I'm hoping that that's true, and I'm hoping that it is not super problematic. So I'm hoping that for both of those books. Next, I got Jamaica Kincaid's Annie John. This is one of Jamaica Kincaid's most famous books. Now, I just found out about Jamaica Kincaid recently, but she was a Black American author, and this book is from 1983. She is a contemporary, obviously, of Toni Morrison and Gloria Naylor and some of those other Black authors that I've been enjoying, but I had never heard of Jamaica Kincaid, so I was super happy to learn about her and then find this book. I also picked up Evelyn Waugh's Decline and Fall. A few years ago, I read an Evelyn Waugh book and I fell in love with it, and I've been collecting Evelyn Waugh books ever since, but I haven't really been reading any of them. He is most famous for Brideshead Revisited, and I actually have the Brideshead Revisited edition that goes with this one, which I think are really cute. So I'm super excited to get to more of his work. I found Mary Ann in Autumn, and this is a hardcover edition of, I believe, the 7th book in the Tales of the City series. I've been rereading the Tales of the City series over the last 8 months or so. I've read 1, 2, and 3, and those I had previously read. I think we're now getting into territory of books that I have not read, and I believe, like I said, this is the 7th in the series, which means that I have 7 in the series, so I think I'm just missing 2 more. Another author that I read 1 book of but fell in love with and want to read more of is Alice Walker, so every time I see an Alice Walker book, I pick it up. This is By the Light of My Father's Smile, and it is a novel. That's all I know about it. It's all I really need to know about it. It's not very long, under 250 pages, and I thought this was a pretty cover. I picked up 2 NYRB books. I love NYRB books, and these were the only 2 that I found. This particular sale has a payday, so you could pay to go in and get like an early preview, and I think a lot of booksellers and collectors go that day, but I never go because I don't want to pay to get in and pay for my books. But it means that I miss out on some books like NYRB books because the collectors and sellers come through and buy them up. But these were the 2 that I found, and I bought both of them even though I don't know what either of them are about. I think they're both historical fiction, and this one is Madame de Pompadour by Nancy Mitford. I've heard Nancy Mitford's name before, and I know that NYRB does quite a collection of her work, but I don't know anything about this book or anything about her. And this one is The Year of the French by Thomas Flanagan, and again, no idea, but it's NYRB, so I thought I would pick it up. It's also quite chunky, so, you know, who knows when you'll actually get to it. This one might be nonfiction because it does have a lot of references in the back. It was written in 1979, so I don't know. I found another Alice Walker book, You Can't Keep a Good Woman Down. This is a book of short stories by Alice Walker, and I have a couple of other ones of hers as well, but since I'm collecting all of her books, I picked it up. I also picked up Maurice by E.M. Forster. I've been wanting to read Howard's End. It's on my Booktube spin list, and actually I am currently reading it. I know that Maurice is a lesser famous work than Howard's End, but a queer work, so I'm super excited to get to this one. Another whim purchase was This Is a Bust, a novel by Ed Lin. This is about a Asian American cop working in either LA or New York, but one of the big cities in the 70s. He is a police officer, and the struggles he goes through and his adventures and his life. It sounded really interesting. I liked the cover. It just looked like a cool one to get. I know that Milkman by Anna Burns got quite a lot of buzz on Booktube, and I have to say that this was a little bit of a Booktube inspired purchase because I don't really know what it's about. I remember thinking that it sounded interesting, and since it was $1, I got it. I kind of feel similarly about Interior Chinatown, a novel. This is by Charles Yu, and this is a book all about, I think, the movie industry in Chinatown, but also it's told in like script form, so it's done as kind of a movie script. I know this got a lot of buzz on Booktube when it first came out, and then it kind of died down. Some people really liked that unique storytelling, and some people really hated it. I have a feeling I'll like it. Another Booktube influence is Miss Reed, Village School. This is by a person named Miss Reed, but it's also like a series similar to A Series of Unfortunate Events where the author is a pseudonym, but no one knows who the author is, I think. I remember thinking this was interesting. It was written in 1955, and I believe it's mid-century modern American story. Okay, so I saved some of my favorites, most excited for last. I got Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. I'm really more interested in Sundial by Catriona Ward, but this one is interesting too. But why is it like 500 pages? It's so long. This is a mystery horror with several twists. Some people really like this book, some people didn't like it at all. I know it has a cat in it. That's about it, but that's enough for me. And next, I got The Mystery of Mrs. Christie by Marie Benedict. A couple years ago, a couple books about Christie and Christie's disappearance came out. I got another one in June, The Christie Affair by Nina Gramont, and that one was recommended to me by Kevy. And this one I think is the one that people liked less, but I thought it would be interesting to read like a couple of novelizations of Christie's life, maybe back to back or around the same time, and kind of see what's good and bad about each one. A couple more referring to Say Kevy. If you have not checked out her channel, you definitely should, but she got me on to Louise Penny and Still Life, which is the first in the Inspector Gamache series, and I was lucky enough to find A Fatal Grace, which is the second in the series, at the book sale. I also found Miss Pinkerton by Mary Roberts Rinehart. I read my first Mary Roberts Rinehart in July, and I really, really liked it. I have The Haunted Lady by her as well, and it turns out that Miss Pinkerton is the first of the Haunted Lady series, and The Haunted Lady is the second. So I'm definitely planning on reading this one soon and getting to The Haunted Lady soon after that. Lastly, for July, I picked up Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk, and this one is another Booktube darling, but one that I've been wanting to read for a long time, and I was lucky enough to get this for my August TBR tackle, so I will be reading this in August. Those are all the books that I acquired in July. You'll have already seen my spreadsheet with these on it, my recently acquired books system, but if you haven't watched that video, I will list it down below. In 2022, I am filming hauls for all my recently acquired books, and it is having a surprising result. So if you are finding the results of your acquired books surprising as well, please let me know how and why below. Are you acquiring a ton of books? Are you not acquiring books? Are you reading what you acquire? Let me know all those questions in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much. Bye.